Alright guys, so this is Julia, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make your virtual machines run faster, which you can see right now I'm making a Windows 10 32-bit VM because 32-bit will run faster. I'm giving it 3 gigs of RAM. I was going to give it more, but because I was recording, I didn't want to do that. Now, as I said, it's also best that you don't go over that green mark. In fact, I wouldn't even make it close to red because you want to have enough for your main machine. As far as the hard drives, I think the fixed would be faster, but I think it takes up more storage, so I just left mine at the default. But if you want to go ahead and mess with that, if you have a lot of storage, go ahead, but I'm pretty sure it takes up the whole entire space you give it on your actual hard drive. As with the normal option, it only takes up space as you fill the drive, and not like if you give it 50 gigs, it won't just automatically take up 50 gigabytes. But it will, I think, on the other option. So here I'm selecting an ISO of Windows 10. I chose the newest version of Windows 10, the April 2018 update, because I like to keep my VMs updated and new. You guys can see I'm installing the VM. I just chose Windows 10 Home because why not? I clicked install, and you guys can see right now I am disabling the network adapter, because with Windows 10 it'll ask to set up a Microsoft account and all that, but if that setting's off it won't do that. And also you'll be able to personalize before you connect it to the internet, even if it's not going to activate because it hasn't connected to check for a license yet, so it still lets you do that. You guys can see I turned off all those settings as well because I turned off all the telemetry, and then I decided to install the guest editions. Now the things I'm going to show after this, I recommend you do before you make a VM, but if you have an existing VM and you want to make it faster, then go ahead and do it afterwards. But I recommend always doing this before you actually install the OS, when you're actually in the process of making the VM. So I'm going to tell you guys how to make it faster about now. Alright guys, so you guys saw me install that VM, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more things about it now. So I've not made it quite faster yet. By the way, one thing you do want to consider is make a 32-bit VM, because 32-bit VMs run faster than the 64-bit VMs, as well as they don't take up as much storage on your drive. We're going to open settings on this VM. You can see what I did Windows 10 32-bit. For memory, I was talking about that earlier. You never want to exceed this. You can stay in the green, but you never want to go further. In fact, I wouldn't recommend doing more than half of your RAM. So if you have 4 gigs, I honestly would do like 1.5, because you need more. Like, computers nowadays need more RAM. That if you give the VM 2 gigs, does it really have like enough resources to run a VM and all your stuff at just 2 gigs left? Maybe even 1, but 1 isn't a lot, which means your VM will be slower, so I'd recommend like 1.5. I have 12 gigs of RAM, but I only picked 3 gigs of RAM for the VM because it is a 32-bit VM, and if it's 32-bit, you can't do more than 4, so keep that in mind. If you want to add more RAM, you're going to have to do 64-bit if you're adding more than 4 gigs of RAM. But I would just stick at like 3 gigs of RAM or 4 gigs of RAM on 32-bit, because honestly, it will run much better and it won't be as hard on your CPU. And I also was recording as well, which could have made it slower. But I just chose 3 gigs on a 32-bit VM. That's like what I always do. Now for processor, I have 8 cores. So you can only do a certain amount. I recommend 2 cores. I don't even know if I would go 3 cores. I honestly don't know if I'd want to do that. Even though it says I can, I usually just give it 2, because when I'm recording, it takes probably some stuff when I'm recording. So maybe if I wasn't recording, I could bump it up another one, but because I'm recording, I just set it as 2. I mean, you can always tinker around with this, and if it doesn't work right, you can always keep altering the settings, but this is just what I do. You want to keep these on. This virtualization, by the way, is a setting in your BIOS called virtualization, which you can't even make a VM unless you enable virtualization in your BIOS, but mine's already enabled, so that's why I'm able to do it. But if you guys are having issues with VMs not even working at all on your computer, might want to make sure virtualization is enabled in your BIOS. Pretty sure for HP it's like F10 to get to the BIOS. I think that's what it is on my computer. Some computers are like F1 and F2. I mean, it's different for every system. You could just look up your model, your computer, and what the BIOS key is, and you should be able to find it. So pretty much that's what I did. You could do UEFI, but I didn't do UEFI. I just kept it on Legacy because like the things that can do UEFI is Windows 8 and up. So if it's 7, no, it's not gonna work. Now this video memory, I recommend enabling both of these accelerations and then bumping this up to 256 because that'll give it more video memory, which will make the VM faster. As you said, you could add more monitors, but I only have one hooked up because I have my laptop lid closed. So because of that, it's not gonna work, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend adding more monitors to a VM. It's just gonna make it slower. Don't worry about that stuff. Storage, now, I gave my VM like almost 50 gigabytes because I have a lot of storage on my computer, and I did not name this Windows 95, so one of my friends named it Windows 95. It's not Windows 95, I promise. And then audio, keep it the same. Now, network, I leave it as NAT, and I just leave it all default. Now, as I said, it's best to disconnect the network when you're installing a VM, especially if it's a Windows 10 VM. I'll get to that later on why. Just ignore that. USB, I don't know if this would work well. Honestly, I don't do USBs on VMs. I just do ISOs, or I drag and drop files. But those are pretty much all the settings you want to set in there, and then I'm going to show you some things on the VM. So we're going to start this VM, and I'm going to show you some stuff. So I'm going to start this, and it's going to be going already much quicker because I notice when you give it another core, so instead of having one core, if it has 2 cores, it tends to work better because one core is single core, and single core is slow. So I wouldn't recommend doing single core VMs, which is default. If you can bump up the cores, do so. 2 or more is good. You want to have at least 2. I mean, if your computer's powerful enough, you could get another one, but everyone's computer is different, and if your computer doesn't let you add another core, it could just be your low-end hardware not being able to do it, which is why I say you want to make sure that you have a pretty decent computer if you want to run virtual machines, because low-end systems can't really run VMs as well, and it's not going to be super fast. So if I open Task Manager, we should be seeing 2 cores on this VM, and I want to make sure that we do. So for some odd reason, we're only seeing 1. And no, we're seeing 2 actually. It says 2 virtual processors. So actually, it is showing 2 right here. And CPU is 100% for some odd reason. I'm not even doing anything. That makes total sense. Oh, it's OneDrive. You can see I'm not even using a gig of RAM. I'm just about using a gig of RAM, but I'm not. It's like 32-bit uses a lot less, which is why I recommend 32-bit. And then all this is just, yeah, you can see 100% there because of that OneDrive. And everything's, working here. So the VM is up and running now. The reason why I said don't connect the internet is, one, Cortana setup will ask for Microsoft account and all that, and even if it's not Cortana setup, if it's like an older version of Windows 10, it will still ask about Microsoft account, and it's easy to skip that by just disabling your internet, which I'm not going to enable it right now, because believe it or not, Windows 10, it lets you personalize if you don't connect it to the internet first. Because if you connect it to the internet, it'll try to activate and it'll fail, and then if it doesn't activate, you can't change any of these settings. So honestly, it's best that you wait so don't connect it to the internet until you changed all your settings. I don't know why this is glitched out. Probably because I need to update this VM, because it's always best to stay up to date because it makes it work better. But pretty much you can change any of your settings that you want. So I like to go to like desktop icons, and I like to add computer and control panel. So I added some shortcuts to the desktop. I usually move recycle bin in the corner. And you can just do any customizations that you really want. Like, I'm gonna go add a wallpaper, so hold on. To add a wallpaper, you need to make sure you have your drag and drop host to guest enabled, and then you drag it. I don't want that one, I want this one. Once you drag the wallpaper, I just drag it in like pictures or something, and do this and set it as the background, and then you got your nice wallpaper there. And I can make this even a darker blue if I want. See, it lets you personalize before you connect to the internet on Windows 10. So if you don't have like activation, I'm gonna move that down a little bit, darker blue, so it matches better. But even if you're not activated, you can still do stuff. But once you connect to the internet, it will notice you don't have a license, and it'll say it's not activated. You can see here it says connect to the internet to activate Windows, but it still lets you personalize and everything. But once you connect it, it will not let you do that anymore, which is why I recommend, like in the setup, like going up here and disabling the internet, so that way after it installs you can do all your customizations you want and then connect it to the internet, because then it doesn't matter, you did all your customizations already. You won't be able to change any of them, but you might be able to do some stuff in control panel, but you won't be able to do any of the personalization options and settings. They'll all be grayed out. So you can't do anything really at all if you're not activated, which is why I recommend there's actually a website where you can buy Windows 10 Pro keys for like $15. And it does work, because my friends bought keys from there. But they are OEM keys, which means you can't call Microsoft and get help. But I mean, if you're good at computers, or you know friends that are good at computers, they can help you. You notice this is using this, and it only shows 2, but if I go on here, I don't know if Windows 7 Task Manager has that option. Oh, right here. You could see all the cores. I have 8, but and I'm using 5 gigs of RAM right now, but that's because of the VM and because I'm recording, and Windows uses some of it, so that's the reason why. So you can see here, it's kind of using a lot because I have this VM open, and I gave it 2 cores. So that's what I'm saying, that when you're recording and having multiple cores, I mean, it can be a little bit slow. It's faster when you're not recording like I am, but it's still pretty fast because I have a really decent computer, so it's really not going to be much. And if I go here, how do I see how much processes would work? See, OBS is using like a lot, but VirtualBox is really not using too much. It doesn't show that, which is weird because the VM says it's using a gig, but this is less than a gig. So maybe it's just the way it does it is different. I don't know, but I mean, it's gonna look different from the Windows 10 Task Manager because this is on the actual computer. This is just the VM's information. So it's gonna be a little bit different, and it's gonna vary. Like this says 21%, but this says like 2. Well, mainly mine's high because it's recording. So basically, we got my VM. Now this will work on any version of Windows. It doesn't have to be Windows 10. It can be like 7, 8, any of the other ones. You can do any of this stuff, and you could make the VM go much quicker. It also depends on the computer you have, because that'll determine how much RAM you can give it. Never exceed that amount it says, but if you have 4 gigs, probably like 1.5 gigs, or maybe even a gig, or like a gig point 2, that might work as well. It's just that you don't want to you don't want to like give it too much, because then the host machine won't be able to handle the VM, because it won't have enough memory to handle the VM if you give the VM too much. And if you have like 6 gigs of RAM, you can give it like maybe 2.5. I would say like 2.5, maybe even 2 if you use a lot of RAM on your computer. But you could maybe give it 3, as long as you're maybe not recording while you're doing it. it just, again, it depends. And as far as the cores, 2 cores is best. If you could do more cores, I mean, if you can do like 3 cores, it's fine too. But it also depends on your processor, how many cores it has, and whether or not you're recording in the background. If you're trying to like record a video or something like I am right now. Other things, you could download like CCleaner on the VM to clean up all the files, but this is a fresh install. I could always like update it, because updating does help, and it's always something you should do. I mean, yeah, it's a VM and it's not like my main computer, but I'd still like to do it, just cause like it's obviously, if you're still putting the VM on the internet, and you're still probably doing things on the internet on the VM, so you could always and to clear the Windows Update cache, you go see Windows software distribution. You can just delete everything in here and reset Windows Update. That resets it if you delete everything. Or you could just go and download and delete everything and download, and then that'll clear the cache, and then you just empty the recycle bins. After you run all the updates, you could just go there and get rid of the cache there, and you're good. So that way you could still keep it updated and you won't lose space. And as I said, I will download CCleaner on the VM. Alright, so I'm at Google and it wants to already download Chrome, so let's download Chrome. No offense, Chrome is kind of a RAM eater, but as long as you don't have a lot of extensions and things like that, it's not too bad. On lightweight computers, like computers that aren't very powerful, I'd recommend like Firefox, because actually Firefox has really gotten better over time. But once again, having all those extensions could still slow it down. I think I could still edit edge settings, believe it or not. The VM is lagging a little just because I'm recording, I'm updating the VM, and I'm using it at the same time. So now I'm going to download CCleaner to the VM, because that frees up storage on the VM, so that way your computer doesn't take up a lot of storage having that VM. And also disk cleanup helps. I'm just gonna save this because I'm going to run it after this is done. But pretty much, once you get your VM going, I mean, you should be good. So pretty much that's like how you make VMs faster. I mean, like, there's methods to make it go faster, and it's gonna be installing. Oh, download CCleaner. But I'm just going to wait for this and come back. Alright, so Chrome is opening right now. Yeah, it seems a little slower, but as I said, I'm recording, plus the VM is updating. Let's check the task manager on the VM. It would be much quicker once this is fully updated, once we run CCleaner and all that, and once I'm not recording, this VM will be quicker. So if I go to the performance tab, the CPU is totally 100, which is why you got to definitely have more virtual processors. It's better just to configure it in the beginning, honestly. Like while you're setting up the VM before you install it, you should change all those settings. But if you already have an existing VM, I showed you how to do it, but it's best just to do it in the beginning. So it's best just to do it in the very beginning. So if I check my computer's task manager, it's definitely using more. But as I said, the VM's updating. But when it's done updating, it should be, you know, much better. So we got that going. Yeah, we got that going. We got this updating. Let's download CCleaner, or let's say install CCleaner. I mean, the VM is still going fairly quick. I mean, VMs are usually slow. I mean, being honest, I mean, you can make them faster because this video shows how to make them faster, but still, if you don't have the most powerful computer, it's still not going to be as fast as a main machine. I'm not going to install Avast on this VM because it will slow it down, and Defender, to be honest, is not bad. nor is Security Essentials, which I have on my computer. It's not bad, so it works pretty well. Because I feel like to be honest, those other third-party antiviruses can slow the system down, but when you use the built-in antiviruses, tends to work, because I mean, they've improved over the years for sure. And also about Microsoft's antiviruses, they update like every hour, so it's always getting virus definition updates to help. So this pops up. I'm just going to click don't show that again, continue. This also will speed up your existing computer, so if you download this on your actual computer and run it, it will actually speed up your computer as well, because you want to make sure your computer is also sped up. So it's best to run CCleaner on it, disk cleanup, optimize or defragment, run all the updates on it, and keep it maintained. And if you keep your computer maintained, the VM will also go quicker. So it's always good to not only keep your main computer maintained, but keep the VM maintained as well, because it will make it go faster. Now, I wouldn't recommend defragging a VM, because I have an SSD in mine, and you cannot defragment SSDs, and the VM doesn't know it's an SSD. So I wouldn't recommend doing it on a VM, because your computer will know it's an SSD, but your VM will not know that, and it will actually defragment it. You don't want to do that. So that's why you just do that on your main computer, because it recognizes when there's an SSD and it will do trim instead. And that's, so if you guys have an SSD, it will do trim. If you go to the optimize and defragment, it will do trim when you run it, because it recognizes, oh, this is a solid state, this isn't an actual hard drive, which that also makes your computer much quicker when you do that. So I'm just gonna let this install. It's actually installing fairly quick, and yet it's a virtual machine, so that's just amazing. So pretty much, guys, that's how you make your VMs go quicker. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps you guys if you have virtual machines, because I know a lot of you guys probably do virtual machines. So this is something helpful. Just letting you know, I'm back in school, which I'm in college now, so you won't see as many videos, as I'm gonna get a lot more work starting like later this week and next week. But I will try to make videos at least once a week, but if I'm like really busy one week, it might have to be 2 weeks, but I'm going to try and make videos for you guys for sure. Just leave video ideas down in the comments of what you guys would want to see. I'm gonna restart this when it's done installing, but pretty much I'm gonna still, make videos. You just won't see them every day, and there might be some weeks where you don't see a video. It's just because I'm really busy with school in that case, if that happens, because some weeks you get a lot of work, some weeks you really don't get much at all, and maybe sometimes I understand the concepts better one time than I do the next time. So it pretty much will vary, but I'm still making videos, so leave ideas in the comments so I can start having more ideas for videos, which I know I have some written down, but I want to hear what you guys want to do as well, and what you guys want to see. So I feel like this video was helpful, just like I made videos recently on freeing up space, which that also works in other OSs too, and even though it's set in Windows 10, it still will work in 7 or 8. It's just some of the options, like the compress thing won't work, which, here's another thing. If you make a Windows 10 VM, let's just open a admin command prompt here. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything dangerous in here, because there's actually a lot of dangerous things you can do in this thing, but I'm not going to do that. And you do compact.exe/compact.os, and then the 2 dots always. This will compress the VM or your computer if you don't have a lot of storage, and this will make the VM smaller, so that way it won't take up a lot of space. But I wouldn't recommend doing it while it's updating like I am. I wouldn't recommend doing it during that operation, but I just did because I'm still recording. But I would definitely wait until nothing is going on before you do this. But this will also help as well as I said, 32-bit VMs take less space as well, and then compacting it will also help. And this also helps with computers with like those 32 gigabyte SSDs that they have, or whatever storage. I don't even know if it's an SSD, it's just like flash memory or something. But this helps those computers as well, and it just takes up a lot less storage. So anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling on and on and on. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this helps you all, and bye bye for now.